In the 7th month of their marriage, she realized that her husband had been getting up through the night. She was a light sleeper, so he always woke her up, though he was trying very hard not to. At first this seemed considerate, something any good husband would do, and she would easily drift back to sleep. But one night, she couldn't. Her sleepless eyes watched the numbers on her digital alarm clock glow in the dark. 3 a.m. 3:15. 3:30. 3:45. 4 a.m. 4:30. The first tickles of dawn light were coming through the tops of their curtains when her husband finally came back to bed. They had never had any problems with communication, and she was concerned for him, imagining he'd spent all that time struggling in the bathroom, so after they ate breakfast together, she asked him what he'd been doing. His eyes darted away in shame and surprise, clearly he believed he hadn't woken her. "What do you mean, babe? I was only in the bathroom for like 15 minutes. He said. He was a bad liar. But that was the thing. He was a bad liar. She knew he'd never lied to her before. Not ready to fight over it, and wanting to give her lover the benefit of the doubt, she let it go. After all, she couldn't be 100% sure she hadn't fallen back asleep and then woken up again later, couldn't say for sure he hadn't just been up twice, and her tired mind had filled in gaps that weren't there. She wanted things to be normal. A week later, it happened again. This time, it was only an hour, but she watched the clock intensely, making sure she took account of every minute. It made it feel like she waited for an eternity, but now she was sure that he had been out of bed for a solid hour. Over breakfast, she tried to prod about it without being direct. If it was something he was sensitive about, she didn't want to force him to embarrass himself without being ready. But her concern was growing. What if it wasn't something benign but embarrassing? What if it was something nefarious? Again, he denied everything. The total denial, the lack of explanation, all of it made the concern grow and grow. Why couldn't he just come clean, even if he didn't want to reveal all the details right away? She decided she would have to catch him in the act. That night, she only pretended to sleep. She knew he did it every night, and it wasn't like she could sleep anyway, not anymore, not knowing the truth. Around 3 in the morning, his usual time, he got out of bed. Slowly, quietly, her husband crept from the bedroom. Once she knew he was out the door, she got out of bed to follow him, as slowly as she could, keeping absolutely silent. She heard the stairs gently creak as he snuck down them, moving gently, but not gently enough to keep the old wood from betraying his presence. She stayed perched at the top of the stairs, looking down at him, a position with an open view of their kitchen. Her husband didn't turn on the lights, and her eyes were still adjusting to the darkness, but she could see he was moving to the refrigerator. Moving as slowly as possible, she would scoot down the stairs, staying seated to spread her weight across the steps. When she'd made it halfway down the stairs, her husband opened the fridge door, and he was bathed in light. His skull was open like a flower, and where his brain should be there was a glistening, writhing bugworm, a grisly thing of mucus and chitin. He reached into the fridge and pulled out the jug of milk, and his hands moved spasmically to open the cap. Her husband lifted the milk jug up to the head of the bug, and it latched onto the spout with a lamprey-like mouth. The bugworm tipped the jug back, arms now hanging limp at his sides, and he began to chug. Her husband slept in his underwear, so as her eyes adjusted more to the light, she could see that under the skin of his back, tendrils were moving, as if his spine was an enormous centipede, its legs writhing in delight as the creature gorged itself on cow's milk, while the petals of skull that were his split face gazed back at her with unseeing eyes. She didn't know whether to throw up or to scream in terror, so instead he just gasped, sucking in a harsh, sharp breath. He heard her. In shock, the creature's mouth lost its grip of the jug, and it fell spiraling to the ground, slushing the milk all over him. The bug thing let out a squirming shriek, and the petals of skull began retracting into place, as if being pulled on by sinewy strings. His face was contorted in distraught fear before it even slotted back into place. "Babe, honey, it's okay," he said. She screamed. "Honey, it's okay. I can explain. I swear I'm not going to hurt you." he pleaded, slowly getting closer to her. Tears streaming down her face, snot bubbling from her nose, she stared wildly at him. "What are you?" He looked at her with sad eyes, still drifting slightly off kilter. "I'm Keith."